Although they are now far away, we know they did it right. Wedding bells rang loud for them, her memories linger still. Togetherness was all the way, regrets she has are nil. The time slowly became 2 years, 2 feet toddled in. Then 6 more years togetherness, another 2 more kin. The 4 of us, we built our home, the fact not be ignored, a little place to put ourselves and memories to be stored. But now as time still lingers on, and 3 are left to mourn, we hold our heads so bravely and look towards the dawn. A tribute to Dad on the 98th anniversary of his birth and Mum's would-be 56th Mother's Day, this Sunday the 10th of May 2020. Dad was born so long ago and Mum just 3 years later. To pay respects and memories, I've made a film to cater. About 100 years ago, a story there is told. My father's father had a fight and punched his boss so bold. The next thing knew, he's on a boat to land just east of home. Great Britain moved him on a bit to India as engineer telephone. My uncle said was good for him, his career it did excel. He married Nan who birthed my dad and boated home to tell. My father grew between the wars and signed up for the second. We are not sure what he saw through camera lens that beckoned. All we know is in transition, 3 types of illness taken. Typhoid and tuberculosis, then pneumonia lay waiting. The secret held in closet closed, I'd say was sanatorium, a place he went away from war to die, recover, or norium. I suspect it was to Africa, the British colony chosen. The weather warm and air was fresh and not too far from Mosen. When war was over, he went home, discharged as invalid, no pension. A young man but of 22, and life goes on, no mention. When I look back and think of it, his illness and years recovery, I think his family treated him like damaged goods or rubbery. In some same way, my mother's tale is one of escape from labels. Polio was the curse on her that left her limping gables. Not good enough to marry man, an Italian was not her chosen. She ran away to British land for work and life and Mosen. In 1950s British times, the dating structure differ. Groups of friends went out at night to movies, theatre, flitter. I think Norman was the link, though interests lay in mother. And Bianca was the jealous one whose eyes for Dad would flutter. Mum talked about Dad's puppy eyes when he looked to her with sorrow. She felt her heart skip a beat and knew he was her tomorrow. A long engagement they did have, at time it was tradition. Dad met the country Italian folk and Mum the English Inquisition. Their wedding day in 1960 was cold with bitter snow, but nothing could be colder than the feelings Norman and Bianca know. By end that month my parents moved to Africa, Dad's work was taken. A motion picture cameraman, the newsreels in cinemas he's making. Those first 2 years my mum recalled were her favourite of more than 90. Money good, away from home, just free and feeling dainty. Inevitably, the first child born appeared to be a good thing, but as the years were to unfold, the truth of this surprising. By anniversary number 5, my family moved like thunder to the home of British soil and waited migration down under. My sister 3, when plane did land, at Tullamarine they ported. To Fisherman's Bend is where they went, as migrants to be sorted. Their first home was in Abbotsford, not trendy in late 60s, but a start in this new land of hope and dreams and Dixies. When I was born, I'd like to think, was joyous love and laughter. But Dad depressed, my sister bitch, and preeclampsia sank our rafter. But life went on, each day we breathe, the aunts in England buried. Inherited money helped Dad buy, to Jacana House we ferried. It's where I grew to womanhood, and where my life, say, started. It's also where my father died, now 39 years he's parted. Mum and I lived on our own, taking care of what was needed. She was 56 years old, and I was 13 seated. The next some years of 34, in widowhood she managed. She lived with me from 86, and at 90 she then vanished. So on this date of May the 10th, the anniversary of birth my father, he would be all of 98, if made it to 60, rather. And for my mum this Mother's Day, 4 years now you've parted. I thank you for the life I've had. Your soul is deep, my hearted. My parents were just human beings I held up on a stool. My love for them will never die. Their love for me will rule. I remember Dad. Dad coming home from work, tooting his horn at the garage, and I would rush out to pull the rope of the garage tilt door and then slide open the train gate to let him in. He would sit me on his knee and I would hold onto the steering wheel and he would let me drive the car into the garage. He came home one day with a present for me, just because he could, and not for birthday or Christmas. It was a gold half-ring wrist bracelet with a green plastic diamond in the middle and hanging on a short link, a gold plastic heart and gold plastic key. A children's bracelet, of course. He said one day, after my sister left home, "It's great, just the 3 of us now." He used to whistle in the shopping streets to call us to him. A distinctive whistle, and I knew it was him, where he was, and how to find him. I remembered he had an argument with the checkout person at the Tucker Bag supermarket in Glenroy on the corner of Pascoe Road and Lytton Street one day, and within days it exploded and was devoured by fire. My father proclaimed his innocence. Dad was a greenie, to a certain extent. We had an old tree on the Fidge Court corner of our property that provided excellent shade for Dad's car when it was not in the garage or at work, which probably was not that often now that I think about it. The council wanted to cut it down, much to Dad's dismay. He would write regular letters to the Broadmeadows Observer with his objections, and in one letter I have a copy of, he stated he was prepared to chain his wife to the tree when he went to work to stop council from cutting it down. The year after he died is when they came and cut it down. I remember Dad driving us to Ararat to pick up my sister and bring her home for the weekend, also to the Footscray to the theatre company she was involved with. When he could not find something, his sentence often started in a raised voice with, "Damn and blast it and hell's fire." Often it was, "Damn and blast it and hell's fire, where's the HP sauce?" When Dad was driving, if he took a wrong turn or missed his street, he would get angry and the "damn and blast it and hell's fire" would emerge from his voice box. Dad came to a meeting at St John Ambulance where I was a cadet, probably an AGM or something, as the officers were trying to coax Dad into joining the committee. He declined each offer. He would have died later that year or the following one. For a while after he died, I could hear his English accent, and then it eventually disappeared. I lost my English accent and blended in with the Aussie's tone. People didn't seem to understand Dad's sense of humour. I recall his notation at the bottom of a permission slip for me in grade 4 to visit McDonald's, a school outing. I had not been to McDonald's even though Big Mac and I were born in the same year. The other kids laughed at me for my lack of experience. At the bottom of the permission slip, Dad noted that I could go as long as they brought me home. I remember Mr. Argent with his crooked index finger pointing and asking if my father thought they would leave me there. I remember the Allards of next door drove me home. Mum and the Allards had lost talking terms by then, so it was quite a dangerous thing for me to do, to get into Mr. Allard's motor vehicle. Regarding Dad's humour that no one ever understood, in the early 2000s when I sought out the one and only dentist in Craigieburn at the time, Dr. Blunt, I was told that he had a weird sense of humour. They called it a dry humour, I think. Anyway, it is very hard to laugh with a pair of dentist hands in your mouth, but I found him quite humorous. I surmised that that was the sort of humour my father had, that no one understood. I remember he liked his Yorkshire pudding with his Sunday roasts. I remember whenever we left the dinner table, we would have to say, "Please may I be excused." We're also told, "No elbows on the table." And my sister would get told off if she brought a book with her to the table. I loved my father's rules. Dad used our poor table manners as an excuse that he could not take us out to dinner. The fact of the matter was that we couldn't afford to go out to dinner as a family on Dad's Ford's wages, and it wasn't commonplace in the 1970s anyway, as it is now. No one cooked better than Mum as well.